Welcome to today's web conference, Helping Partners Sell Value Discovery Workshop and the Value of Office 365 Calculator. I'd like to turn it over to your first presenter, Michael Pensaroli, National PTS for Microsoft. Michael, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kim, and good morning to U.S. partners, and good afternoon to you on the East Coast as well, and welcome to our June Office 365 U.S. Partner Community Call. And this is our agenda for today, and we're going to be talking about some tools that we have to really help you sell. And so it's interesting, you just took the survey, and we do appreciate that. And one of the things that we find, we normally have a technical bent on this call, but we find that we have many salespeople, and there are many of you that are involved in pre-sales capacity. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to talk about these new tools. And we have with us Kapil Tandon, and he is the Senior Product Marketing Manager for the Business Value Programs. And so he owns these programs, so we're very fortunate to have him today. Looking forward to the presentation very much. And just moving on to our just community slide, if this is new to you, welcome. And so just wanted to show you some ways that you can join our community, and these slides are going to be available for download, and we post them to the Yammer site. And so you'll be able, if you don't copy down these vanity URLs, if you're not getting any of these communications and you're interested, please do that. We have a newsletter that comes out monthly with service news, and it's very important. It's tailored to U.S. partners, and so you'll see U.S. events in there as well. We have a Yammer community, which is quite strong. We're seeing a lot of partner-to-partner interaction there now, and of course you're going to get news and information from the folks at Microsoft. And so we have that Office 365 Yammer group, and we post to the U.S. blog, which is the U.S. Partner Community blog. So I'll have a post coming out on SharePoint and all that's new there, and some of the opportunities for partners. And then also, we're a little bit later in the month, we'll be taking a look at, actually maybe early July, we'll be taking a look at some posts around the WPC and what productivity partners might want to be paying attention to there. So hopefully somebody in your organization is attending WPC, and you can register for that, and you see the sign-up links that we put out. Should be getting that communication, but it's certainly in the newsletter, and can be very valuable, particularly for helping you build your cloud practice. So that's it for my community welcome, and let me turn this over to Kapil. And if you have questions, go ahead and post them to the window, and we have a couple of moderators. Amanda Hill is here, Jenny Woodbury is here, and we'll answer them as best we can. But if you don't get them answered right away, we will kind of ask them toward the end, and Kapil could get those answered for you. So Kapil, thanks again for joining us, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael. Appreciate it. Hey everybody, my name is Kapil Tandon. I actually lead the business value programs for the Office group, all up, and I'm very excited to be here in front of all the US partners, and thanks to the US team for pulling this off, because I think we have an exciting session today. So thank you all for attending, and let's get into the meat of it, because there's lots to cover. So just an FYI, just to give you a little bit of an idea around how we think about business value programs. This is just a framing slide, how we think about it and how we expect, and what we're seeing from a customer perspective, their expectations from us. So primarily, this is how we've designed the business value programs all up. Now, typically what we see in the journey with our Office customers is that, there's the initial bit, which is all about showing the vision all up in terms of where we are going for Office. And that's where we have the modern workplace pitch and some of the pitch decks associated, to be able to talk to them at a high level to get them excited about the vision. But very quickly, what we see is the discussion actually flows into a part where they talk about the fact that, hey, not only do you show me some testimonials, but show me all up, how are people in my industry actually faring in this move to Office 365? And that's a very fair question, because they really want to understand and know what's really happening in the industry all up, and how should they think about the entire space to be able to evaluate this very well. Then from there, very quickly, if you are actually able to show them that, they very quickly ask you the very next thing, which is about, got that, but these numbers are generic. How do I see numbers which are very relevant for me? Can you customize these for my situation? That's a very interesting one as well, and we're going to talk about that today as we go through the demos that I'm going to show you. When you show them all of that, it's great that they're able to see some of these numbers which show the value all up. Some people call it TCO. I like calling it the value of Office, just because TCO is very much oriented with just hardware cost, and what we show is a little bit beyond the hardware cost, and it actually goes into the soft benefits that a customer actually gets as well. But as soon as you show them this, the very next question the customer generally is asking about is, hey, I get that. It's great that you have this analysis done and you've done it for me, but show me really how will I get to those numbers? Because these numbers are not purely about hardware replacement. They are about process change. Can you enumerate the process change? So for that, we actually developed a new tool, which is known as the Value Discovery Workshop, which is what we're going to lead with today. And I'm going to show you that in terms of how and how you can address these things all up. And primarily, like we all know, process change means business value. Because whenever you are able to actually make the processes more efficient, the business will get value. Now that's all great. When they see that, the very next question that they have is, I got that. Now can I actually see it all in action? I want to see what all you've talked about is real and how real is it. And for that we have the CIE, which a lot of you are familiar with. And we've done some very cool stuff with a CIE where we've actually made it a virtual CIE, which enables you to actually do this at anytime, anywhere, on literally any machine. It actually even works on Macs and the whole 9 yards. And it's become super simple and super easy to be able to show them this whole 9 yards. And of course, once you're done with this, then it's all about the onboarding part and ensuring that, we are able to onboard the customers all up. So, all up, what do business value programs mean? And just to show you in our context in terms of how we think about the engagement processes, there are 4 main things in business value programs. The first one being the Forrester TEI white papers, which are pretty much done with 30 or 60 plus of our customers based on which industry you're picking up or which segment you're picking up. And they actually showcase how our customers are faring when they move to Office 365. The value of Office tool, which is a link at the end of Value Discovery Workshop available to all partners, which I'm going to show you guys today, actually is based on the TEI white paper calculations, and you're able to customize it, based on your customer data sets. So I'm going to show you that as well. The Value Discovery Workshop, like I told you, is a very easy to conduct workshop, which is by industry, by role, and it actually goes through process change by scenario, and you're able to articulate the value that the customer gets. And of course, last but not the least, the CIE, which you can actually do now in a virtual setting. It can be done over a phone, which I'm gonna do today, or it could be done in person, or when you're meeting a customer, and you can actually show them the exact scenarios that you've talked about all throughout, based on the customer interest in a very simple and easy way. So without further ado, let me actually show you some of these things, because I think that is the more interesting part. So all up, I'm actually going to share my screen with you guys, where you will be able to actually see the Value Discovery Workshop homepage. So the Value Discovery Workshop all up is located on a public URL, which is www.valuediscoveryworkshop.com. And every partner who has an MPN ID has access to it. So as soon as it comes, as soon as it loads, you'll see that there is an easy, simple sign-in process in terms of Value Discovery Workshop. So let's say you're a partner, you'd actually go into the partner, Microsoft Partner tab, and again your MPN ID actually works on that. Now, since I'm an employee, I'm actually going to go in as a Microsoft employee, and like you can see, it actually takes me to the workshop. Now, in my workshop, again, it remembers my state, so that's why it's just taking me to the workshop that I was doing. but all up, again, very, very simple and easy to conduct. Now, I'm not gonna fully fill up a new customer, but think about this. In a new customer, you'll actually put in some basic data about the name of the customer, the size of the customer, and the size is very important because the value numbers which are picked up in the workshop are picked up based on the size that you put in the profile. And along with that, the person that you're meeting, because you want to have a very customized discussion with the customer, when you're presenting to him. So in this case, I'm going to actually do a new workshop for you for a customer profile that I've set. Basically, again, it's I've put up a sample all up. Now, what you see here is that actually we have 8 of these available, and the 9th one is coming next week, which is commercial. And the commercial one will have all the horizontal roles. So horizontal roles are like finance, operations, sales, HR, marketing, the CSO, security officer, or the CIO. Those will all be in that commercial thing which is coming next week. Now, for now, we have 8 of these available, and under each one of them, we have different roles available, which are in the industry. Like banking has compliance officer, investment analyst, product manager, relationship manager, right? And if I actually went and selected, I don't know, government, communication, each one of them has different roles all up. Now, in this case, I'm just going to go through one. I'm going to, let's say, select a product manager role. And under this, what you see is that there are scenarios. Now, the scenarios which are on the top are actually the broad buckets. Now, the broad buckets are primarily for you guys to help you understand what this could mean. Like discover insights to identify trends is all about insights. In front of the customer, what will show up is, because it's a product manager in the finance organization, it'll show up as discover insights into compliance data across banking operations. Why? Because that's what a product manager in a finance organization actually cares about. Again, these are data sets that we got back from the data that we did research with Forrester on, as well as our industry teams who actually helped us build this. So the top ones are primarily to help you understand what the conversation is going to be around. The bottom ones are much more aligned to what the customer is looking for. So in this case, let's say I'm actually going to pick up, I don't know, I can pick up any one of them. I can say, let's say discover content and context. Now I'm not going to pick up multiple ones, because if I pick up multiple ones, it actually takes time. Or maybe I'll pick up 2, just to show you. So, and again, I can also pick up other roles if I'm meeting with multiple people and add on multiple scenarios under it. So I'm going to click next. Now you can see, it actually has that. I also have the ability to customize the workshop, which means there are 2 things I can actually customize. I can actually customize, the agenda, and I can also customize the testimonials which are in the workshop. So you have the ability to do both those things. You can also do a preview, as well as all the attachments are available for you so that you can download if you want to. Now, ideally, we absolutely tell you to actually use the tool to present, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to start the workshop, and this is the basic welcome page. You can see, because I had entered the customer data, it actually very clearly shows you that, it's a custom thing. It's hosted by me. All the things which are good for personalization. If I'd actually put in a logo of the customer, that would also show up. I didn't, so hence, you're not seeing that. I'm going to press next. If I'd customize the agenda, it would have showed up like this. Otherwise, this is the generic agenda that we have for the workshop, right? We walk the customer through this. And then, of course, the testimonial page, which I told you is now customizable. You can pick up testimonials which we have in our library, or you can add to the library to use with your customer. So that's the customization part. Now, this is the basics that you're going through with the customer in terms of just warming the customer up. Then you get to the same page that we had seen in terms of selection. Now, this is one of the biggest reasons why we tell folks to actually utilize the workshop. Now, you will say, why? Well, the reason why is because this workshop, the online tool, gives you the ability to change things in front of the customer. Typically, when I am doing it in front of customers, and I've done approximately 70 plus of them, right? What I do is I actually open up the edit button, and I actually show the customer, hey, Mr. Customer, I know you're in the banking industry, I know you're in the product management line, and these are the ones that I chose based on my understanding of what you were interested in. But since you know yourself best, please let me know among these what is of interest to you and what do you want to pick. Typically, I'll just be honest with you, you can actually do approximately two of them in an hour if you really do them well, and the customer does look for doing them well because they're very interested in this process efficiencies. But when you open this up, the customer does pick up more than two, and that's okay, because the fact of the matter is, if the customer has interest, they will devote more time to be able to let you walk through these process efficiencies all up. And this is a great way to actually pull them in, because they have a lot of interest in seeing all these areas and understanding what makes sense for them. Sometimes they'll pick up a few for themselves, but they'll tell you, we want you to come in and show other things to their colleagues because they have higher interest and they want to learn about how they can actually make their processes more efficient with our Office 365 platform. Now, in this case, I'm not going to change anything, but if I did, I very well could have, and I'm actually going to just add one to it. You know what I'm saying? Just because, to show you that that's how easy it is. I can, of course, also, make them trend up or down based on whatever the customer preference is in terms of what they want to see first versus not. Then we get to the heart of the discussion. This is where we talk about the scenario which we call the high value activity. The way we talk about it is that, like I told you, now the top portion is actually gone, which was all about how do you actually have insights or utilize insights, which was primarily for you to give you as a guide in terms of what we're going to talk about. Now this is very particular to the product manager in a banking capital markets industry, and this is where we talk about so how do you do this, and this is a before process. So we talk about at a high level to say, hey, Mr. Product Manager, or Mr. X, does your process look like this? And I cover this at a high level to say, do you actually do this to be able to get the insights around the compliance data? And I walk them through the steps. Now, when I walk them through the steps, the fact is that this is not the exact steps that they actually take, but this is near enough where you are supposed to leave it and let them talk about what they feel and what their pains are. And they will talk a lot about their pains. They will tell you, how similar the process is that you have, and they will talk about where it's different. And our job as sellers is to actually note down these things to be able to say, okay, got it. I understand, where your processes are a little bit different, and I understand your pains all up. A great place to actually have a discussion and listen to the customer after you do the high level pitch. Then customers do like to hear about, and talk about what they need to do, which is this section, right? In terms of what you need to do. And I'll tell you, typically, even though we have the ability to select and modify the after process based on this, the fact is customers always select all of them just because they are very curious to see if their needs were all of them, what would happen. So I'm just letting you know. But they do like to go through the process. We talk about best in class and what the business impact is. And I'm not going through every bit of it in the interest of time, because like I told you, a single workshop with two of them actually takes a full hour plus, to actually really do a good job and listen to the customer, as well as romance every part of what's there in terms of the tool that you're seeing. And then we get to the after process to show them, how life would be simple, how life would become very easy with Office 365 and all the different capabilities which come with Office 365, which actually empower them to be able to get to this future vision. And I do have some of the product and features in it, but generally I stay away from talking about too much about the product features. I stay at the capability level and then talking about the value that the business gets. Typically at this point in time, the customer always says, I get this. And I also get the fact that these are coming from the Forrester TEI studies. FYI, for all you guys, the TEI studies are available right here for you. You can actually click on them, download them, share them with the customer right there and then. They're also available at the end of the workshop. But again, the question that comes from a customer at this point is, hey, I get this, and I get the fact that it's coming from a Forrester study, but they're too generic. How do I know that I will get the value? And at that point in time, my quip back is, that's a great question, Mr. Customer. We will get to it at the end of the workshop, because what we will do is we will open up the value of Office tool and we will actually calculate what your business will get, for all these things that we are talking about. So we will customize this entire thing for you. This is just a starting point to show you where other customers who've gone on this journey with us have found value. So what you can see is there's a very good likelihood that your organization will also find value just like our other customers. So that's the before and after for a typical scenario. Then you go through the next one, which is again, like I told you, this is all about discovering content and context, and the before picture, the before process and the after process. Again, talk about capabilities and value. Then you go to the next one, which is the client privacy one, which is what I selected. Again, the before process, after process, the capabilities and the value. And then we get into the implementing priority section. In this, customers love to talk about their ability to adopt, their thinking about how technically complex it is, as well as what the business impact is. As a partner, you absolutely want them to talk and listen to them, because these are all the opportunities which are available for you as a partner to actually help them with, right? Because your business proposal back to them would actually add on items based on what you hear back from them in terms of where they feel that they need help, and you as a partner would be able to actually provide value and help them with. Then we actually summarize our entire discussion purely based on the scenarios as well as the capabilities and the business benefits, which is the three of them that we covered. And then we get to the end of the workshop. Now, the interesting part of the end of the workshop is that now you actually have a full workshop report, which is available for you to download and share with the customer. So whatever you did and whatever you customized, now you can actually download this and share it with the customer. Along with that, you also get the value of Office tool, which the reason why we call it basic is because this is already pre-done for you, right? And what I mean by pre-done for you is it actually takes in all the data and actually builds it out for you based on the input that you'd put in. And this is not the one which is the editable version. You also get a personalized business proposal along with that. Now, I'm just going to open up the business proposal very quickly just because, I want to show you, as a partner, how easy it becomes once you've done the workshop, that it actually takes in all this data. It actually builds this entire proposal to you, which you can edit, right? But it has all your data sets. It's got all the data about what you just presented to the customer. And along with that, it also has data from, the Forrester study. It has the implementation priorities. And just to show you, this is the TCO, TEI study data set, which actually gets also pulled in. And it also pulls in the recommended next steps, all of which you can actually edit and utilize to send back to the customer. Now, this is one part of it. I'm going to close this out. And then along with that, we also have this other banking and capital market business proposal, which is very editable, but it's a very, very nice looking document. In this case, I'm not downloading because it's a big document and it takes a little bit of time. Then you get the value of Office tool, the customizable one, which you can open up and actually customize with the customer, right? And along with that, you also get the Forrester TEI studies and the next step, which is actually to show them the same scenarios in CIE. Now, as a next step, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up the value of Office tool, which is what you get here, right? And I'm going to get into that. But before I get into that, like I promised Michael, I'm going to take a 1-minute break to see if you have any questions around value discovery workshop before we actually get into the value of Office tool.
Thanks, Kapil. Yeah, one of the questions was around have you've done many of these? Are any of them done remotely? Can it be done remotely, or would you recommend that you be in person with the client?
That's a great question. So as much as a CIE can be done remotely, the value discovery workshop is best done in person because you really need the customer interaction. It's a tool, it's an application which really forces the customer to talk and tell you a lot about their environment. And you want to invest the time in an in-person meeting to be able to actually catch all the nuances and all the pains that the customer is going through.
Very
So
good.
typically I would say no, you don't do this remotely, you actually do it in person because that's where you actually get the maximum value.
Very good. And then one other question was around like applicability. Is this would this does it apply like if you're doing a specific, let's say you're focused on a specific workload where it's really around Dynamics or SharePoint? Does this tool still make sense?
That's a great question, Michael. Again, it actually does make sense, but one of our guiding principles around this tool is that we talk about the entire platform. And we talk about the entire platform in every scenario because the fact is what we saw is that customers don't work in a silo. They don't work on a single workload. They actually do work where they need a complete end-to-end scenario. So my example would be this to you, that when somebody is looking to actually get insights to be able to take a decision, right? The fact of the matter is that they may use SharePoint to search a lot of data and see what's available and understand what research was done in the past. But then they may have to go to Delve to understand who else is working on that, right? And along with that, they may actually have to go into Yammer to understand and ask questions about the same thing to see if there's some knowledge which the community has. And then when they do find the data, they actually need to talk to a few people to be able to fully understand what really they found, right? And then for that, you need Skype. Mm-hmm. And then you need to share it out again, for which again you need, something like OneDrive or SharePoint. So all up, like you can see, I can give you any and every example. What people are interested in is in doing work and completing things that are important to them. And you really need the platform to be able to help them with that. Now, with that said, we know that our customers actually at times, only deploy a single workload. So what you do is in that case that we have scenarios which actually are much more heavier on that workload to showcase the value, but still you have to tell the entire story so that they are prepared and they understand where they will have to do the joins manually just because they're not using the entire platform. So does that make sense as an answer? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good advice. And if that didn't answer the question, go ahead and follow up with another one. A question from George, and he's kind of wondering, should this be done first? Would you encourage us just to hold sessions for discussing the values? So maybe is kind of asking around kind of the sales stage when this comes in.
Absolutely. So this is what we're discovering, and again, a great question. The fact is, what we're discovering is that the sooner that you have this discussion, the happier your customer is. Because what I have seen is that customers are really happy to get away from a product or a pure numbers discussion, which is what typically we've been doing for, the n number of years that we've been in business, right? As a company, or you've been in business as a company. The fact is, this is very refreshing for them because they like the fact that they're able to actually talk about their problems, their pains, and how processes would change, which basically means that they understand and they start understanding the value that they will get from moving to the platform without you having to explain or give them numbers, in terms of just the TCO numbers, etc., or sell them on a single product or feature, or just wow them with that. Mm-hmm. And there's bigger value in being able to have that. So yes, the sooner you have that discussion, the higher impact there is. In fact, we just did an analysis, Michael, of a value discovery workshop and the impact it has, along with when it's paired with the CIE very well. And we were amazed to see that we have a 90% close rate. with a very major acceleration in sales, when you actually use both of them together.
Mm.
So,
all right, very good.
and
Yeah.
plus actually it impacts usage. So we actually see a very major upside in usage with this because the customer really knows now why they should be using the stack all up.
Nice. And then one for Daniel, from Daniel, and I think this is maybe talking around targeting, a particular segment. So he wants to know, is there any way to add a micro market or SMB? Partners aren't always going after the corporate or the enterprise size companies.
That's great. That's another great question. So the tool actually does, scale from SMB to mid-market to enterprise. Like I told you, when you put in the number of seats that the customer has in the value discovery workshop, when you're creating the customer profile, it picks up data sets which are associated with that segment. Now, with that said, what we've seen in anything from SMB to mid-market to EPG, all the customers really love to understand how business processes would change. And even though their business processes may look a little bit different from each other, they love the fact that they can see how, in Office 365, it would work all up. Small businesses love to see because they aspire to be big, in terms of how it would scale up when they become big, right? And how it would even work even when they are small. So it actually covers the entire base because the entire tool is based on not a segment, but it's based on business processes, which actually look very similar across organizations. The only difference is that, there may be too many people versus too less in being able to do some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Good, and hopefully that answers George's question as well, which is kind of similar around kind of what size organizations. And then one of the questions was from Mike, which I believe you discussed at the top of the call. You covered that in terms of how do partners get access to the tool, and are all partners eligible or only select or managed partners? And so I believe it's as simple as www.value discovery workshop, right? And I believe that if you're a MPN partner, you get access to the tool, right?
Yes, you do. You get access to the tool and all the tools at the back end, like the value of office tool and the TEI studies, the whole 9 yards.
Very good. And then one of the things that I think we talked about on a call back a few months ago when we had Doug McCutcheon on from Fast Track, we were actually paying partners to do a value discovery workshop. Do you know anything about that? And did that end at the end of June, or can they still get paid out on that?
No, actually, I do know. That's a great question. So that program is continuing and will continue and become bigger next year. That not only will the partners be able to use this for the money for doing value discovery workshop, but also for CIE. So it's going to get expanded out all up next year. And that program is still valid and is going to continue.
Well, that's great information. So that's great to have you on the call and talk about that. So we appreciate that. And then, so I want to let you continue on because I want to make sure you have enough time. And one of the things that maybe you could address, and I actually had a partner asking the same question that Todd is asking, I think is more applicable to the calculator, is, will we need a comparison of on-premise versus Office 365 costs? Is there a calculator for that? Will you be addressing that in this?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because the calculator is based on that premise all up. So,
okay.
So thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. So let's get into the value of Office tool. So when you download the Office tool, value of Office tool from the end of Value Discovery Workshop, basically you get to the start page after you've done the enablements, etc. Now, the way it works is it'll actually ask you for a company name. It'll ask you, whether you want to use an industry or not, right? And you can say you don't want to use industry. You can choose other, or you can actually say, it's a financial industry, which is what I was doing. It does ask you, which country, so that it can do the dollar conversion rates, right? And it also asks you which products are you looking for. And if you can see, there's a lot of things which are available for you. The top 4 things are available for all partners. right? So when you actually get to your version, you'll see that you have the ability to do SMB products, PSTN conferencing, ATP, EMS, and we're continually adding more tabs to this calculator just to help you in your very pointed discussions that you have at times around E5 or E5 add-ons, which are very hot in the market all up. So with that said, once you're done with this, then basically you get to the next page when I hit continue. Now in the next page, since I picked up enterprise, basically what it's asking for is that, okay, which SKU are you looking for? Let's say in this case, I'm looking for Office 365. The basic premise around when I choose Office 365 is that it's moving from an on-prem world to Office 365. Now, I just want to be very, very clear and honest about this fact here, that the value of Office tool does not compare different SKUs in the online world. It actually compares the on-prem with the online world. And that's what you see. Now, in this, I'm going to actually put in the number of seats. Let's say, it's 12,000 seats. And as soon as I do that, the basic set of data sets which are needed are already there. And you can see that it already has done an ROI analysis in terms of what it will look like in terms of from the initial to year 1 to year 2 to year 3. It also shows you all the yellow fields which are editable, and you can actually have different profiles because we know that let's say you have a 20,000 seat customer or a 5,000 seat customer, some may be going on E3, some may be going on K1. You can actually mix and match up using these profiles. Also, you can actually say, what number of users will be added in year 2, year 3. It'll actually take that into consideration as well. Then it also shows you all the add-ons which are available. So in E5, we already know that there's Power BI, there's PSTN conferencing, there is Cloud PBX, there's Cloud PSTN calling, which again, it's not included, but you can actually include it if you wanted to, right? And you can actually see that, there's domestic versus international. You can add that on. I'm not going to add that on right now, but there's ATP, customer logbox, EMS also can be added on. So this is a pretty flexible tool, very basic right now, but shows you exactly the calculations. Now, the default values are all coming from the TEI studies like I told you, and it tells you, okay, this is what it is. I'll show you the other sets of default values which are there and how this data is calculated as well in a second. The ROI calculation shows you, what the total costs are and what the total benefits are in terms of the net core cash flow. As you go down, it actually shows you, again, the entire set of total benefits, which actually are, it shows you by each category that's been calculated, as well as the cost categories which are there. And it shows you every bit of, how we've calculated the entire thing. Right? And then it gives you benefits by category as well as cost by category. Now at this point in time, if the customer says, hey, I get this, I get your assumptions, but I really want to customize this further. At that point in time, what you do is, there are two ways actually to getting to the next tab. One is you can hit continue, or you can actually go to the enterprise standard inputs tab. In this case, I'm just going to continue. And when I go to continue, what happens is I can now further customize these data sets. Now, what you also see is what were the default values which were used in corporate accounts versus enterprise accounts versus very large accounts. And you see corporate accounts, you are not seeing the SMB one because the SMB costs are very similar to this, and hence we stayed with the simplicity of utilizing this. Now, you can see, now you can further customize all these yellow fields. They actually go into server data center input, they go into employee cost, which the customer can say, hey, no, I don't do this. I have lesser costs associated with this, and you can actually start customizing all bits of this. You have deployment inputs as well as users per workload, which you can actually customize now, saying, you know what, like Michael was saying, I only want SharePoint, or I only want Exchange. You can actually have that discussion by zeroing out a lot of these numbers all up. Just giving you the full example, in terms of how it works. And then again, it goes into showing you all the calcs, and if you've changed anything, it'll actually change all these charts as well. Now, the customer says, I get that, but I actually want to customize it further, right? Then you get to the next mode, which is the advanced mode. Now the advanced mode is broken down into two sections, the advanced benefit section and the advanced cost section. What that means is that every part of the benefit that you were seeing on page 1, now you can see the calculations here, and every yellow field is actually customizable, right? And you can actually now customize every piece of it. You can customize the technology piece of it, which is the hardware cost, right? You can actually customize the licensing cost. You can actually customize, reduction in effort cost in terms of admin, compliance cost, the e-discovery cost, and all the other things that you eliminate all up, and the avoided technology section as well, which you can add. You have extra lines in there to add if your customer is saying, oh, got it, because of this, I can see that I'll actually take out, I don't know, Iron Eagle, or I don't know, whatever it is that, you're taking out because, you don't need it because we already have it in Office 365. And you can also see the soft benefit areas in terms of the calculations that have been done, right? And you can actually customize every bit of it. Now, this is really detailed, but some customers like that. And it's easy enough for you also to be able to do because you're actually sharing this with the customer and letting them customize it. In the advanced cost section, just to show you the advanced cost area as well, you can actually see that there's implementation cost, professional services, training, admin cost, the incremental cost of licensing, the AD federation cost, bandwidth, on-premise voice, on-premise on-premise voice hardware implementation, as well as professional services cost, all of it broken down and all of it editable. And as you edit this, basically the data sets and the ROI calcs will change, and every bit of it is actually shareable with the customer. Now at the end of it, you basically get to this section which actually shows you all the results based on all the changes you've done. Not only does it do that, but it actually also gives you the ability to create a report. And when you actually click on creating a report, basically what shows up is this. It actually gives you the ability to actually have a report which is now shareable with the customer, which can be a high level one or a detail level one. But you can see, it actually gives them all this data, which they can then go back and share it with the CFO or anyone, for that matter. So this is just a high level preview of the TCO tool, or the value of Office tool. The value of Office tool, like I told you when I started, it actually covers both the benefit areas and the cost areas, and it is broken down into two very major sections, which actually are very clearly shown here: the hard benefits and the soft benefits. And those are equally important for the customer, and this is the same kind of cost, this is the same metrics that we're using within the value discovery workshop. So I'm going to stop here, and again, Michael, I'll let you handle the questions if there's any questions, but there's a lot of detail here. I can go into more detail if needed, but in this time that we have, I think this is the right amount of detail to go into.
Great. Well, it looks like a lot of great work there, and a couple of questions. One of them is, by any chance, can this be used for nonprofit pricing as well?
You can actually use it for non-profit pricing, because what you can do is, like I showed you, this entire thing is so editable that you will actually start zeroing down on the costs associated with licensing and be able to see, how they will have benefit areas. What will happen in non-profit pricing would be that you will actually concentrate much more on the softer benefits, which are beneficial for the customer, which will show them the value.
Okay, very good. And then, are there any issues with the type of Excel that you need? Can it be run in versions of Excel lower than 2016? Any requirements there?
Yes, that's a great question. It does need 2016, just an FYI. And we are working on a replacement of this tool, which will be an application, which we plan to release in early July. Again, which will be available through the Value Discovery Workshop itself, as well as it'll be on our universal portal, which we are developing for July, which will take away that need of using Excel 2016, and it can be used as a web application all up, and it'll become a little bit more easier to work with. But for now, 2016 is a requirement for this, and as partners and sellers in Microsoft, we expect that you guys are on 2016. So
very good. So George wants to know how are you recommending we handle these tools with customers? Do you do you send it to them? Do you have a private consultation? We can really go deep in the workshop for each customer, correct?
Yes. So basically, my answer to that would be, typically the best way to do it is these are numbers and you really want to sit down and consult with them. But can you send this to them? Yes, you can. We've actually made it in such a way that we have no issues in you actually sending it to a customer and letting them fill it out and play around with it and do the numbers by themselves. The only fear that you have of that is not that the customer can play around and do whatever and there's no issues that we have. The issue that you will get into is that he will play around, and after playing around, all of a sudden, he'll actually expect you to have all the answers when you don't even know what all he's changed, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to grok what he's changed. You need to really understand what he's changed to be able to really help him understand, how the numbers changed or what happened. So that's the only caveat that I'll tell you. There's no harm in sending it to customers. We've actually sent it to very, very big customers because they actually take days altogether in it, right? And typically in that process, the way we get around it is that we let them send that data sheet back to us before the meeting so that we can review it, understand what they changed, and be prepared for the questions that they're gonna ask. Does that help?
Yeah, sounds good. And if that doesn't help, go ahead and fire a follow-up question. And from Todd, do you have to have the customer's current spend data, or is that estimated within the tool?
So what we do is we start with the estimations, which is what I'm showing you on the standard inputs page, which is the data that we collected via our Forrester studies with 60 plus customers and different segments and different industries. Now, with that said, what we do expect is that when you meet with the customer, you will customize these numbers to reflect what they have. Just to be very honest with you, Michael, I want to, have that disclaimer that the fact is 90% of our customers are okay with going with the generic numbers versus customizing them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's only 10% of them who actually want to take the time to customize. And that is what we've seen, and that is what I'm telling you. So, customers are very happy to see this kind of disclosure. Customers are very happy to understand, but they really don't want to get into that much detail, except for, like I said, 10% of them who actually go into gory details and spend days and weeks on it. And the other thing that I do want to add here, since you asked the question, is if you do the value discovery workshop to start with, they will not dig into these numbers as much, because when people understand, how their business processes will change, you don't need to tell them how they will get value. They've already calculated the value that they'll get in their mind, beyond anything that you can tell them. So you don't need to convince them on value anymore.
All right, that's good. Good tip. That value discovery workshop ahead of time helps. And there was one question that was already answered in the chat window, and that was how do partners get a hold of this tool? And I actually asked that question myself, I think last week, and so I know the answer to that. And yeah, you will be presented with the tool at the end of the value discovery workshop. Or if you have let's see, if you have partners have corp access, we do have a lot of P-sellers, and some have corp access. I guess they could maybe find it on CorpNet somewhere as well, right? Or you can.
It's Office on-ramp.
Office on-ramp, or you can maybe ask somebody that you work with at Microsoft to send you that. Right. Now, from Michael, he wants to know how much time will it take for one of our salespeople to get comfortable with the tool? I like that question.
That's a great question.
There's a lot there.
Yeah, there is a lot there. And, it really depends on how mathematically inclined your salesperson is, and also what kind of a customer you're dealing with. Like I said, 90% of the cases, your sales guy would actually be able to pick it up and run with it very easy, because all they have to do is fill in the basic tab, and that's easy. And your customer is also happy with it. But if your customer is really going down in the details, then your seller will have to spend some time. And depending on how mathematically inclined they are, it could be a few hours or it could be, a week or so to actually get up to speed on it. But they will have to understand the mathematics behind it to be able to answer the customer questions all up. So that's what I would tell you. You know what I'm saying? So typically 90% of the times you're going to be fine. A seller can pick it up, do this in the basic mode, you're good to go. But in a customer who's a little bit finicky and who's actually diving into the numbers, you will need to spend time.
Fair enough.
I'm hoping that's a good enough answer. I don't think it's a great answer, but still.
Fair enough. And can we reuse customer information? I would like to run through the tool before doing it in front of a prospect.
Yes, you can actually run through the same workshop again and again. So, yep, absolutely. Like, if I go back here and you see, this is the same one. So I went through this, I can go in, I can again present the same thing, right? So I can actually do this 10 times again and again. And like you can see, every one of them that you're doing, it gets stored here for you to be able to reuse.
Sounds good. And one question, I think that is kind of about wrapping it up. But one question I had, can you talk about some of the future plans for the tool, or the things you're kind of building in? Like, what if anything around compete situations? What if my customer is on WebEx? Will I see any calculations around that in the future on cost savings, or is that too tricky of an area to get into?
So, Michael, that's a great question. We actually have compete tabs, but they are only available for internal use. We cannot expose out compete information externally, even to our own partners. So that's one of those things which is tricky, and it's just not allowed by legal.
Yeah, understood. And we've had some partner briefings around this content, and we've talked about some of the that value as we do comparisons against Cisco WebEx, for example, and have some examples in there. And so I think maybe some of that information is out there for partners, but that's good to know. Anything else maybe coming that you're working on?
Yes, so we're working on a couple of things. We're working on a unified portal where instead of going to valuediscoveryworkshop.com or microsoftcie.com or a valueofoffice.com, you'll actually go to a single portal. And all these tools will be available for you, right? And the workshop that you saw will become even more editable. So, in the before picture, the before process that I showed you will actually become editable by September, where you can actually capture the process while you're talking to the customer, which will make the discussion even more interactive. Along with that, the value section that you are seeing, which was coming from TEI studies today, will become editable because every one of the scenarios will have a value realization small calculator right there, so that you can actually plug in some data sets about the customer and present to them customized value sets all up. We're also very aggressively working on integrating all these scenarios into CIE so that what you show here, actually you can show in CIE one-to-one mapping. So that's a little bit of the future, which I'm telling you all up, which is coming very soon between July and September.
All right, very good. And so I think we'll take our.
I can't show the I can't show the virtual CIE, but I'm hoping that all these guys have seen the virtual CIE. But the only reason why I do like showing the virtual CIE is because when you do the value discovery workshop, the customer does want to see this. And you should be able to do this very, very quick versus, taking too much time all up in being able to do this. And I don't know how many people have actually seen this. I'm hoping they have. Getting a virtual CI is very simple, and to use it is very simple. It works really anytime, anywhere, and on any machine. And I'm just going to connect in very quickly just to show Michael, and I'm not going to talk too much about it. And just to give them an idea. Oh my God, I tapped the password wrong. Okay, so this is how easy and simple it is.
Hopefully our partners are going to be familiar with this, and if not, when we post the deck, we'll put some information around the virtual CIE as well. So are you showing that right now?
Yep,
Like,
I'm
yeah,
just
you
showing it
pulling
right
up
now
a
very
quick
quickly
session?
to show them how easy and simple it is to get into the virtual environment. And like I had it open earlier, so the email is all working. Oh, come on, I'm clicking too fast.
And while he's showing that, please go ahead and take the survey. We do read those, and so thank you for completing those in advance. You'll see that in the messages window. So.
And I'm gonna let go now. So basically it's a fully bodied environment, very simple and easy. And I highly recommend using it while actually doing the value discovery workshop because that's how I use it. I actually do a scenario and show them the scenario, which makes it real for them so that you have closure. But with that, thank you so much, Michael, and Kim and the US team for having me there. And I hope this is valuable for the partners.
Kapil, this was a great call. I appreciate it, and all the tips and guidance and taking us through those tools. Really appreciate that, and I see we're at the top of the hour, and so I'm just going to turn this back over to Kim.
Great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Your feedback is important. We hope that you found today's information helpful. Please take a few minutes to let us know by completing a short survey. Please click on the messages button to find a link to the survey. And you can access the web conference recording via a link that will be delivered within 72 hours post-conference. And I'd like to extend a thank you to our presenters, Michael and Kapil. This concludes today's web conference. You may now disconnect.